Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Like with all Zoom calls, everybody's popping in at the last possible second. At least that's what I tend to do when I'm not in charge. I think I was 5 minutes late for my task force meeting yesterday. So I'm Amber Gunst. I'm the CEO of Austin Technology Council, and we are so thrilled to have all of you join us today. And we're very excited to have HOPZERO come in and talk about data and how it travels, and with everybody working from home or deciding that they're gonna leave home for a couple of weeks and go to the Tetons or Wyoming, or well, the Tetons are in Wyoming, Colorado, or I'm going to be heading up to Michigan in a couple of weeks, that we're working from different places, but we're still working. And so how do we keep that secure? So we're very fortunate with HOPZERO today to have their CTO, Bill Alderson, to walk us through this process. Bill, I'm going to hand everything over to you. If anybody has questions, please put them into chat. And Bill, if you want to pick up on any of those questions throughout, or if you want to go through those with me afterwards, you just let us know. And maybe there will even be a few minutes if we have a smaller group to kind of open it up for open discussion. Bill?
Very good, very good. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, okay. So it's very nice to come to you with the ability to smile. I don't know about the rest of you, but when I walk into a store and they say, welcome, or what have you, it's very difficult to smile fully with your eyes. And that's what we've had to learn to do over these past several months of wearing masks. So it's nice to come to you germ-free, virus-free in this electronic form. Now, one of the things that has really troubled business and industry is that we rapidly all had to go to work at home. So credentials were thrown out. People got the credentials on their home computers. They started logging into the VPNs that allowed them access into their companies and their organizations. And boom, there was a huge problem with ransomware, and continues to be a problem with ransomware. And one of the things, and I'll show you a little later about how we try to address it, but the whole industry is trying to address how do we work safely from home, all the way from passwords, how long they should be, how complex they should be, whether we should write passwords down or not write passwords down, use a password piece of software or something of that nature to manage all of our things. I went out to Sun City, and most of you who know the Austin area, Sun City is a retirement community for people young, in my opinion, 55 and older. And they wanted to know from me, how do we keep ourselves safe? And so the same rules apply to all ages, about passwords and that sort of thing. So I kind of want to start with something that everyone can understand, and then I'll do my best to keep you apprised of other things that I'm going to talk about that might be a little more complex. But passwords, one of my friends says, wow, yeah, I write them down and tape them to my keyboard. And of course, most security people cringe when they hear that. Well, I have some little tip for you on password security that you might not have thought about. Number one, you need to have a different password for every account. That means if somebody learns your secret password and you use it on your bank and ordering food at home or your Uber account and it gets compromised, man, everything gets compromised. So one of the things that I tell people is make certain you come up with an algorithm, whether it's the last character of the business's name, the first character of the business's name, or some type of unique identifier, and put that into the password and then use something that might be a little more common, and then have multiple layers of password mechanisms that you might use. And I don't want to disclose exactly what I do, because then you might be able to pick off my stuff. But one of the things that elderly people have a real problem with is memory. And so they like to write things down. If they write it down, they feel confident. And if they don't write it down, every time they log in, they're having to, reset their passwords. Not going to say that that hasn't happened to me either, but one of the things about writing down a password, I believe in writing down passwords. Write them down. Leave one character that only you know out, so that definitively you're going to have your password, but you're leaving a center character, a beginning character, a middle character, or an ending character, or a special character out. Leave it out. Then you can write it down with impunity. Somebody can try 3 times, it's going to lock them out. They're not going to get it. They're not going to be able to guess that one character that only you know. And so you can actually safely write passwords down in your home where it's, where it's fairly safe. But just always remember to leave one character that only you know, and where the placement of that character might be, the 4th character, the 8th character, the last character. And that way you can write things down, but you don't have to write it down so that somebody could sit down and use it because there's one character that's missing. So I hope that little tip will help you from a practical standpoint that all of us can use and understand. Now, what my career has been focused on is looking at network packets. So I've been looking at network packets since 1980, believe it or not, when I worked for Lockheed Missiles and Space Company in Sunnyvale, California, where we were building all sorts of rockets and the Trident nuclear submarine missiles and other such things. And so my experience started in 1980, actually looking at packets on a network analyzer. So I've been looking at those things for 40 years. And when the military came to me and said, Bill, we've got this epidemic of data exfiltration, people are stealing our F-35 designs and that sort of thing, I thought to myself, I said, hey, I have a way of limiting how far data can travel. And if I can limit your data travel to keep it inside the data center, inside your company, inside your home, do you know that every single one of the printers, look around your office right now, every one of your printers is talking to the internet right now, every one of them. Because when you run out of ink, they're going to immediately notify you of the best place in your area to buy ink. It's a back door into your network. So one of the first things that we do is we restrict how far things like printers can communicate. Do I really need that information? Is that essential to my task? I know I can click on Amazon or go to Office Depot and I can get ink. I don't need Hewlett Packard, Canon, IBM, etc., to have a link into my network. And when I run out of ink in my printer, they fire off a routine to go out, find out where I am, and tell me where I can go buy ink. And I think you'll all agree that that's unnecessary. Well, then why do we allow these devices to ubiquitously just communicate from our networks in business or our networks in our homes and communicate anywhere on the planet? So I came up with this idea of data containment, limiting how far data can travel on a network. And I simply do it by saying, how many routers can you go through? How many routers can your data go through? So there's a mechanism on every packet that gets sent, whether it's from your iPhone or from your computer, it doesn't matter. There is a parameter inside your computer that is set to a maximum number of routers that you can communicate through. Did you know that? And it was put there so that when you send a packet into the internet, if it gets misrouted, it doesn't stay in the internet forever. As it goes through routers, it decrements that value by 1. And when that, it's called hop, or time to live, when hop reaches 0, the packet is utterly destroyed. And so it's kind of like giving your kid the keys to the car and just giving them 1 gallon of gas. He can only go so far. And so you're safer when your packets can only go so far. Now, certain devices need to go around the world, and certain devices don't need to go around the world. So I came up with this capability because of 40 years of understanding the theory and knowledge of how networks work. And I said, I can limit how far data travels by limiting this packet distance variable that's in every single computer out there. Now, the sad thing is that that variable is very big. It allows you to go around the world multiple times by default. What we do is just simply learn a better hop value, a better distance value, and lower it. So that's the big picture. Now, I came up with this many, many years ago, but it was in June 28th of 2016 when I was speaking at a military symposium on security. And they basically came out and said, the Chinese are getting our information, foreign governments are getting our information. How can we stop this? Well, you can stop it by limiting how far you let your data travel. And that's what our company has done. Now, we're an Austin-based company, and we've been working for 4 years to patent all this technology. And June 2nd, 2020, we got the patent. We got the patent on learning the appropriate distance your data should travel, and then setting it. And once we set it, we then listen and we alarm when your data tries to travel further than you have authorized it. So when your printers or a certain database server that you own tries to communicate beyond the distance that you have set for it, then we alarm. And that allows us to catch ransomware. It allows us to catch fish when they come in and try and get in, they can't get out. So what I like to tell people, and everybody knows the famous group, the Eagles. They have this famous song, probably one of the #1 songs on the planet, and it's called Hotel California. And in that, it says, you can check in and you can check out, but you can never leave. And I added, with our data. So we build a Hotel California-like data center where people can come in and check in, but they can never leave with your data, which right now is a big thing, and people are having all sorts of problems. So long story short, we limit how far your data can travel. The first thing that we do is we show you where your data is traveling. And I just mentioned to you a moment ago that now that we're all working from home, and I show you a map of everyone who is connected to your VPN, your virtual private network, I show you a map of it. And if you're in let's say Atlanta, and they're all around Atlanta and all the different areas around Atlanta where your employees work, or all around a city where your employees work, that's logical, right? It's very simple. But if I see your connections to your VPN coming from Russia, China, Bulgaria, Mongolia, the Seychelles Island, Carmen San Diego, if I see that, it's just immediately logical. Wow, which one of my employees' credentials were compromised so that someone from far away, where I don't have any offices, where I don't have any employees, are coming into my VPN? It's a very simple capability. So that's one of the things that we try to help people understand. And your security people should be looking for. Who's connecting to your VPN? Where are they located? And then basically use a very simple logic. Well, what we do is we show you a snapshot. We show you a map of the world and where everyone is connected to your systems. And we can do that very simply with a 5-minute packet capture off of your routers or firewalls, or you can put one of our devices in order to record it. Now, there's lots of technology surrounding security today, all kinds of things, and at all kinds of price ranges. And so you're looking for the ability to keep your data that you own yours, by password protection, by how far away, by locking it down, by using your firewalls effectively to keep your data inside where you keep it safe and secure. Now, just to let you know a little bit about another Austin company, we patented all of this, and one of the guys who actually truly invented the internet, his name is Vince Cerf, and he basically took a look at our technology, read a little bit about it, and was commenting to people and said, hey, I never dreamed that this distance variable would someday be used to create a security perimeter. Very clever. So I'm very honored that Vint actually saw promise in what we were doing and novelty, which means he'd never thought of it. So therefore, it was novel, and the patent office did end up granting us the patent on June 2nd, 2020. A big day for HOPZERO. Now, here is, what we do is by limiting, we stop your server compromise. But like a lot of products out there, you're told to log your information. Log, 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 log. If you get compromised, the first thing that the auditors will ask you is, are you logging? Now the issue is that what are you logging? You're logging from every firewall, every server, every database, every device on your network, and you're logging it. But those are raw logs that are simply going to disk. And in order to understand those raw logs, you have to buy a product to interpret the logs. And that's called Splunk. Now, Splunk is a wonderful product, but it's typically used by very large organizations because it costs over $1 million. And just to store all the data, so they take all the logs and they put them to disk. And then they basically boil the ocean looking for correlation, and maybe several weeks later, after you've been compromised, Splunk will come up and say, you lost all the data from your Anthem data server with all your Blue Cross Blue Shield members on it. It's a true story. It really happened. And why? Well, because they found the logs and they interpreted the logs, they boiled the ocean and found out that they lost their data. So our way of doing that is very simple and very low cost, so that you can get the speed, the latency, the volume, the distance of all those things. And the first thing that we wanted to collect a log, but it was only to see how big your distance is. But we said, well, let's include latency, let's include volume, let's include all that information so you can know what got lost, who got it, how much you lost, and where it went. So that became a value that we didn't even know was there, because our purpose was to find out how far your data should travel. So in a data center, your data might only need to travel to the edge of your data center. To keep your crown jewel data inside your company or inside your organization, we set it at a low number, because most servers don't need to communicate out to the internet, and they definitely don't need to go to Russia, China, North Korea, or somewhere else on the network. So you have to be careful and learn where your data is traveling. So we learn that, and then we say, set this one so it can only go this far. Once you set that, then we listen, and whenever it tries or someone tries to get access to it, number one, we don't let it. But number two, we alarm, letting you know that it happened. And then boom, We allow you to see around the world where that data is traveling so that your security people are in the know. And this works for large companies, small companies, medium-sized companies, governments, immediately to show you where your data is traveling. And when you see your data traveling somewhere that is illogical. For instance, remember all of those VPN connections, all your remote users coming into your organization. Where are they coming from? I click a couple of buttons and boom, I have a map of everything that's connecting to your VPN. And if I see that it's all around Austin, not a problem. Good job. You're constraining it. You've done a good job. But if I see it going around the world, and I have actually seen where ransomware is rampant, and we have seen SSL connections get compromised. And then when we see them coming in from Russia, China, all over the world, we know immediately, boom. You don't need to look at some log, you don't need to study some log, or you don't need to buy some Splunk. You can simply see with your eyes, and even lesser experienced people can see, hey, where's my data going? And it's caught on, and people really like to see where their data is going. So basically, those smart logs help you improve compliance because now you're logging. We keep your data inside where your network is, keeping it safe. And if someone tries to get at it, the actionable alarm catches those criminals, and we can go hook them, cook them, and fry them up in the pan. We can basically identify them and anyone that they're talking to, and we can then go through the kill chain process, which I'll explain here in a moment. But I think that you'll agree that the number one thing that security people have and are using today is visual tools. Things that you can see with your sensory senses. Very, very rapid assimilation of understanding of very complex things. So that's what we've tried to do. And we believe that a picture is worth 1,000 logs. So here is how we address this particular problem of what we call exfiltration. So here you have a map. This is our product. This is actually our product. And it will show you, and now the next part is an embellishment. I don't put the picture of the Empire State Building on there, but I know and put labels on these things that is your database server inside the Empire State Building 51st floor data center, and it's your database with your ultimate criminal target. Because when criminals come in and you hit a fish and it compromises you, that fish is not looking for your workstation. They're not looking for your stuff. They're looking for something much more valuable that they can encrypt, that they can steal, and then hold you ransom for that data. So what we do is, first of all, we protect that device. And I'm going to show you an actual example of how this works. So there you have where your device is in the world. The next thing is I have another machine out here, and it's on the 3rd floor of the Transamerica building in San Francisco. That device is a user device, and they accidentally clicked on the wrong thing. And they clicked on a link that installed software on them that allowed the hacker, the criminal, to come in and take command and control over their device. And remember, I was telling you earlier that they don't want your information on your device. They want what's extremely valuable bulk information in large repositories in your network. So the first thing that they do is go on reconnaissance, and they find something valuable like a big database on the 51st floor of the data center. So boom, the criminal attacks the database. When the database attempts to respond, it can only communicate this far. And so we block the consummation of the internet session, which we call TCP. We block that ability to consummate the transaction so that it cannot transact and send data back and forth. So by limiting where your data is in your data center and keeping it away from a hacker is what we do. Now you might say, well, how does the user get to that? Well, the user would connect to that through a middleware or through a web app of some sort, and then they would go to the databases. Databases are not directly accessed, nor are your backup systems and other cryptologic systems that you keep all your crypto keys on. Those systems are very carefully defined in your data center and are not allowed to talk to end users. So we're talking about safeguarding your most important information, like Coca-Cola has a trade secret on the Coca-Cola syrup formula. And Coca-Cola protects that, you know, and has kept that secret in a vault since 1891. It's been in a vault. Why? Because they want to keep it away from Pepsi. So when Pepsi tries to get the Coca-Cola syrup formula, it can't travel but this far. We alarm, and that HOPZERO stop that response, and then we alarm on that exfiltration. So we're keeping what belongs to you sovereign to you. So our belief is that keeping your data inside your country, inside your data center, inside your organization will allow China to have its data, North Korea to have its data sovereignly, but the United States of America to keep its data inside America, inside our data centers, inside our companies, and restrict the ability of these other organizations and state-sponsored hackers from getting our data. I hope that makes sense to you. Now, this is a little bit of industry speak here, but after we alarm and tell the security department that they have someone trying to get at their valuable data, and we alarm and tell them who it is, where they are, how they're trying to get at it, boom, that's what the world is begging for, this answer. And we provide it, and then we link to other systems that automatically go through what we call kill chain. It begins the kill chain, and you can go through and quarantine the workstation that's attacking, block the external IP that's commanding and controlling, and then the criminal presence is remediated. It's stopped. And a lot of times we catch it before they can even encrypt, before they can even get to things. So statistically, it's almost impossible, if we're protecting a certain number of machines, for an interloper to come in and not accidentally touch our box before, and we alarm, before they can even start encrypting the files. So we give them the chronology of the attack. The intruder is detected. Now, every security product on the market is attempting to do these things, and many of them do parts and parcels of this capability. And the whole purpose is to prevent people from getting your data. And so not only do we show you where it's going, where it's coming from, who's trying to attack you, but your data is protected safe. It never gets out of your data center. So the event is fully documented. It stops server compromise. It alarms on the attempt, and it visualizes the location, and then records all those events so that you can prosecute people. So that's the good news. The bad news is that you have all these vital servers that are on your network, and whether they be, we all know that that printer I was talking about is not vital, right? The printer is not incredibly vital. It doesn't hold extremely valuable information, but it offers an opportunity for a hacker to come in. Now, we hope that Hewlett-Packard and Canon and Epson and all of our big printer manufacturers and Dell are not compromised someday, so that a hacker can get at those connections to all those printers and use it as a backdoor. We hope that that doesn't happen. But invariably, at some point in time, with all the IoT equipment, for goodness sake, your pool is being accessed by the internet. All your pool system, your thermostats are being accessed, your televisions, your speakers, everything we have today. And I'm certain that there are going to be, you know, all the way down to the toaster. You know, you're going to have an internet connection for that thing. And so these devices offer opportunity for somebody to build a backdoor to them. And that's what we're trying to stop by limiting them to an appropriate sphere of trust. And so what we do is we find that device, whatever it may be, a printer, a vital server, we say, hey, we're not going to let you communicate with the default distance variable. We're going to neuter you so that you can only communicate inside that organization, inside your company, and it can't get out. Like I talked to you about Hotel California, where you can check in and you can check out, but you can never leave with our data. So that's what we're trying to do by setting the sphere of trust. When a packet gets to that third router there, the data goes in the can. It's destroyed, and an alarm is sent to us, letting us know that that router someone has tried to communicate further than they were allowed, and we alarm on it, and then we stop that process immediately. So here is a little illustration of all day long your firewall. At home, at work, your firewall is constantly being bombarded from the outside. But from the inside, as a user, as an iPhone, as a desktop, browsing the web, you can, like server A, and I'm going to show you an animation here, 3, 2, 1 of a packet. 3, 2, 1. The packet can go out from inside your network without impunity. It can go anywhere in the world. Now they can't get in, but anyone with a browser or a connection can go out, and very few people have what we call egress firewalls, which would stop this. We barely have firewalls in many instances, even with billion-dollar corporations or billion-dollar budgeted government organizations. A lot of them do not have the money, the time, the energy, or the budget to build egress firewalls like Fortune 100 companies do. So we're kind of out there. And so what happens is, now what if you just hired a new employee to manage that database? And they click on something and it can go anywhere in the world. What we do is we create a sphere of trust so that even the administrator of that server cannot communicate and send packets to North Korea, Russia, China, or down the street to a bad hacker. So here you see it trying to go out. It goes 2 router hops out, and boom, the packet is dead. At that packet being dead there, we alarm. You see the little alarm symbol. So that's how we do it. We keep your data, number one, inside. Did you notice that the data didn't get out? But number two, did you notice that when it attempted, we alarmed? So now, very common, we have internal users who try to get at our big servers and compromise them. And they can do that by either being an internal user and being a nefarious employee or a nefarious partner and getting in and being on your network through wireless, through other means. And then what they can do is they can get into your network and then start looking around, reconnaissance, to see what they can get to. Now, I'm going to show you this in another animation. This could be one of your internal users who's nefarious, or it could be an internal user of because they got compromised, they could actually be used to go in and do a hack against your internal systems. And watch what happens. 3, 2, 1, boom. The packet comes in from that internal user, boom, it comes back out from our Hotel California data center, cannot leave with our data. Therefore, we alarm and let you know. Now, only computers inside that sphere of trust are allowed to communicate appropriately. And so we learn the appropriate sphere of trust, and then we set those devices so that only they can communicate inside your office, inside your data center, inside your company. That's how we go about doing it. And then when the data gets to the edge, it discards the data and sends the alert on the first attempt. Now, people will say, Bill, I'm going to get into that sphere of trust, and then I'm going to pivot. I'm going to lateral. They use all these buzzwords, security buzzwords. And here's the thing. How are they going to get in there if they attempt and they touch our box one time? I've got them. I hook them, cook them, and fry them up in the pan. I send you an alert, and I expose their IP address. I expose their application port. I expose where they are located. I expose what they are trying to get at and where it is located, so that you can take positive control over your environment. And it prevents exfiltration, and it stops both internal and external things. So what you're looking for with a security solution is all these conventional security methods. I think that we all have to agree that every morning newspaper and every evening news, we have knowledge that Capital One got exposed, Target got exposed, Home Depot got exposed, some big company, Garmin GPS systems just got exposed. So what does that tell us? That tells us that the existing incumbent technology cannot stop this from happening. And that's where we come in. And that's what we're trying to do, is say, look, use your conventional mechanisms, use your firewalls, use your data loss prevention, use all of your artificial intelligence systems and signatures and virus checking. Use all of that. We are an additional capability. And here's how this works. 3, 2, 1. Broke through the firewall, broke through DLP, broke through signatures, broke through $15 million worth of security equipment, broke through it. But guess what? You are safe. Why? Because the data never left your data center. That is all we do, is protect your most vital resources, holding it like the Hotel California inside your organization so it cannot get out. And it's using technology that has been here for over 40 years. We're just applying it in a different way to limit how far the data travels. Okay, so that's what we're doing. And the good news is that we're advancing. The conventional tools are advancing, new advanced tools are advancing, and right here in Austin, Texas, we're bringing a brand new technology that just got patented to market, and that's where we're at. We've built the product, and now we're going to market. It's been, and I'd be happy to talk about it as an entrepreneur and how difficult it has been, and how, every 6 to 12 months we run out of money and we have to go get more money, and then we have to convince people that, hey, we're a good investment. We're, we've got a noble purpose. And here's what we did with the last set of funds we've got. It's a daunting task. And my friend Joel Trammell, who is the CEO of NetQOS, that brought me to Texas originally, I commiserate with him every once in a while, and I say, yeah, man, it's like, whew, live to die another day. And he says, Bill, if companies don't go through those cycles, if they don't almost die, it's very unusual. No venture capital or investor gives 100% of the money that someone would need immediately, and then allow them to spend over several years to get the patents and that sort of thing. It's an incremental process of funding rounds by funding rounds by funding rounds, and entrepreneurs take this on, and we take 6 months or 12 months worth of funds, and then we have to go right back out and prove our concept and that sort of thing. So thankfully, We now have about 10 proof of concepts and customers where our systems are out there working. We have one customer who's been using our product successfully for over a year. Very, very powerful knowledge and a great capability. Large companies we're hoping will test our product. We'll put it into their lab so that they can understand and learn this new theory that that Vint Cerf thought clever. And then that's where we're at right now. We're in the go-to-market strategy, and that's why I'm talking to you today, because we can deliver this capability right now today. Now, where does it apply? Well, in these big networks, your hop count or your packet distance variable, okay, let me check on my time here. Let's see, I need to wrap it up here in a couple of minutes, right, Amber?
You go ahead, this is interesting, keep going.
Okay, so here we are. You have a computer. It has a default hop value that allows it to go to the entire world. Right now, every device you buy from Cisco, from IBM, from Dell, from Apple, you name it, has a distance variable that is global. Well, we meant that to happen on purpose. Why? Because when we first built the internet, it was an academic network to collaborate with researchers around the world. What does that mean? That means we wanted to communicate with people in North Korea, researchers. We wanted to do that. But now you have put your most vital data on this network that's connected to the internet. Do you really want your most vital, valuable data that if it got compromised, you would lose all your customers, or your reputation would be damaged terribly, or it might even bankrupt you? So what we do is we first look at what is the default value of that device. All your printers are typically Linux. Your workstations are typically Windows, and your network gear and your big servers are typically Cisco and Oracle. Well, they have a hop count of 255. That means they can go through 255 routers. Lifetime 255. That's how many routers it can go through. Well, we have learned through our analysis, it only takes 40 routers to get anywhere in the world. That means that if you have a hop count of 40 or more, you can go anywhere in the world. So a firewall submits a packet. Firewalls control access. A firewall stops your packet and it looks at it and it says, well, I don't know if I will deny it, or I don't know if I will allow it. If it denies it, game over. If it allows it, here's the problem. It's ballistic. It's like a ballistic missile. You allow it, a firewall allows a packet, it has a huge hop count on it, it can go to North Korea if intercepted. HOPZERO controls the distance that it can travel, which is far different than any of Cisco, Fortinet, Palo Alto Networks, Checkpoint Firewall. They do not have this technology, and when they allow a packet to go, it is allowed to go global, because the default hop counts are 255 on Oracle databases, 128 on a Windows system, which means your Windows device that you're listening to this on right now, and packets are going back and forth, and you're getting packets from my computer so that you can see me talk and listen to me, and that all those packets that are coming to you have a hop count of 128. You only need 40 hops to get to the entire globe. So what we're saying is, maybe for your workstations and browsers, you need, a big hop count. But the database with your most vital data on it, does it really need to have enough lifetime to go to the entire globe? And we say no. So that's one of the things that this Austin company is trying to bring out and help the world understand, that our hop counts are dangerously high and that we probably need to neuter them down, but we need to neuter them intelligently. We need to know where you need to communicate and where you don't need to communicate. And then we do what's called where listing. Where do you want your data to go? You might have heard of whitelisting. Whitelisting defines where it can and then where it can't go. We where list. We tell it where it can and cannot go. So now I want you to think about Linux for a minute. Linux is what has all of the IoT equipment that powers power grids, utilities, hospital monitors. You're in the hospital. There's an infusion pump putting drugs and nourishment into your system. That infusion pump is connected to the Ethernet, which is connected to the network inside the hospital. How far does it need to go to tell the nurse at the station that your infusion pump has stopped? How far does it need to go? A few hops. It needs to stay inside the company. It needs to stay inside the hospital. But right now, all that biomedical equipment has a hop count minimum of 64, which means if there is not a firewall that's protecting it, boom, it can get compromised. And there's already risks and assertions, and you don't hear about them because these companies will not publish that there was a ransomware attack on a hospital and they were trying to say that they were going to kill off the heart-lung machine or the grandmother or your sister or your brother or your child. Not going to tell you that. It's just not going to come out. They're going to keep it from being in the public eye. But I can tell you this, that is it possible? Unequivocally. Are they talking about it? Yes. Is it being whispered about? Yes. So all we have to do is neuter how far we allow those devices to go. Voting machines. Speaking of which, voting machines. They're in counties across the United States, thousands of counties. That voting machine, which is using embedded Linux, does it need enough data travel distance to go to North Korea or, God forbid, Russia so they can get into our election? No. How far does it need to go? Well, here in Texas, if you're in our county, it just needs to go to Travis. It just needs a very small circle of trust to stay within. So we neuter the voting machine hop count so it can only travel inside of Travis County. Can't get to other counties. Can't get to New York City. Can't get somewhere beyond the sphere of trust. Now, is it perfect and does everything absolutely this inoculate you completely from any sort of compromise? No, no, because people can get in and get access locally and that sort of thing. But I'm just asking you this. If you know that your crown jewel is sitting there with a hop count that can go global, and it doesn't need to be. Doesn't need to be. It can still communicate to everything inside your company and organization. But by neutering it, it makes it extremely difficult for an interloper to come in. And if they try to get into our Hotel California data center, they can check in and they can check out, but they cannot leave with our data. And so that's probably a good point for me to segue into questions. I'm happy to answer questions about the company, about our funding, about the journey. Our offices are out at Concordia University. We have a partnership with Concordia University. We work with them very closely. Their incubator kind of brought us to life. And so we collaborate with them, and our offices are at Concordia University. We also joined Austin Technology Council about a year ago, and we're really delighted. It's been just a joy to work with all the people. They like my posts. They help me be seen, and they help me get the message out to the world that here in Austin, Texas, we have a solution that can actually potentially change the complexion of data compromise for everyone around the world.
Bill, that was so interesting. Like I know enough about data security to be dangerous. Now I know a little bit more and I can be even more dangerous. So thank you. So we do have a couple of questions in here. One from Kristen is, does this have the capability to stop a malicious insider too?
Yes.
So somebody that works in the company is trying to get that information out.
Yes, and that's where I was talking about here. You know, inside an organization, when they try to, you know, from the outside they can't get in, but from the inside, that's where the problem is. Anyone on the inside of your firewall with your iPhone that you brought from home, your desktop, your iPad, you can communicate from inside your network like this to anywhere in the globe.
That's great. So she's got another question. Does your idea recognize and stop spoofed packets?
In some instances, but that's really not exactly, that spoofing a packet is a very sophisticated mechanism where you actually change the internals of a packet and where it's coming from or going to. And what our objective is to keep it inside your company so that it can't get into the hands of an interloper who could intercept your packet and send it to the wrong place. There has been situations where routing domains and systems on the internet have been rerouted to go to China. Anything that gets into China, by law, by the Communist Party, they have the rights to know how to decrypt it, and they do, so that they can see the data inside of every packet that goes through their country. So that's another thing. It's good to know where your data is traveling. Is it traveling into China? And if it is, you just need to know that, because you might not want your data to go to travel to China. And give you a very practical example. This mechanism that we're using right now, it's called Zoom, was created, and it is an American company, but the founder and a lot of the investment money came from China. It's a good solution, but they've had problems with the fear that they are letting data go to China. So consequently, inside your configuration, little known, you can configure which servers your Zoom system can go to, and you can limit it and stop it from being hosted in China, because once it goes to China, all bets are off. They can copy absolutely every word, every file, every piece of data that goes through China, and that means all of our conversations. And so, you know, word to the wise, if you're using Zoom, which is a great solution, and even some of our government people have certified it, and it is a good solution, but you do have to click those buttons, because if you allow a server in China to host your Zoom meeting, I guarantee you, just like the US has the NSA, China has a similar organization, and they are watching me smile. They're understanding my technology, and they are listening into our conversation.
But we all have clients in China as well. So it's that we have clients who are in China as well. And so it's good to know what are the options, and how do you protect your data, and how do you protect your IP and everything else. And it's not just China, it's pretty much everywhere. Anybody's going to try to snap up what you have. You know, I have a friend who he's very careful about what goes into the Ukraine. So you've got it pretty much everywhere, from a global aspect, from a company aspect. Corporate espionage is really, that's one of the biggest forms of espionage in the world right now. So we have a question from Fozzie. I'm just going to read this because I want to make sure I've got this right. How does it work, say, with network of researches across the world exchanging critical research data back and forth? Can this be detected in the case of misuse?
Oh, you mean our technology be used for some type of thing?
Yes.
Well, I avoid, like the plague, talking about our product or our capability being used as an offensive tool. And mainly, course, the NSA is probably listening, mainly because I don't want them to restrict my ability to offer the tool. Could it be used offensively? Maybe. But mainly, it's used as a defensive tool to keep what belongs to you, yours. Like I said, you give the keys to your son to go out, and you just make sure it's right on E, right? So he can't go very far. Or you have a GPS if you have a trouble with your child or whatever. And that's why frankly, all the rental car agencies and that sort of thing, they love having GPSs in their cars. They know how bad you treat them, and they know where they are. They have to go retrieve them. So there's a lot of intelligence going on. So I hope that answered the question, kind of.
Well, good. Well, this was very interesting and a lot of great information to be had in this. I think data and cybersecurity is one of the biggest aspects of how to successfully work from home right now, because you don't have access to the office and you don't have access to all the security that's in the office. So this was really helpful. We are so excited and so pleased to have HOPZERO part of our community. Bill, this was an absolutely wonderful introduction into what you do, and more importantly, a fantastic discussion around what you're passionate about and why it's so important to business and to be able to protect and serve your business in a proper way. So we are thrilled to have this program today. I hope everybody had an opportunity to learn something new, and we hope that everybody stays safe and wears their masks when they're out in public, and washes their hands and does all the things that they need to do, so that hopefully we can all come back together in person again soon. Everyone take care. Thank you.